Hi, I'm Brandon Shea with T. Rowe Price. I'm a DC strategist, and my role is to extract insights, share those with retirement plan advisors and consultants so they can help their participants have a more dignified retirement.
Hello, I'm Kellen Foley, Senior Vice President at Gray Group, and I'm focused on changing the way America thinks about and prepares for retirement. Brandon and I are very much looking forward to seeing you on our webinar on March 5th. All right, Brandon, what should advisors expect to take away from this session that they couldn't learn from another target date fund resource?
Yeah, you can find a target date trend report anywhere these days, but I think what you won't find everywhere is a practical discussion on how to evaluate those trends and defend your decisions. So this session is all about upgrading your framework, not just updating your knowledge. I think that's the real takeaway.
What should advisors be doing today to prepare for these target date fund innovations that we'll be talking about during the webinar?
Thank you, Kellen. Appreciate the question. I'll tell you what advisors don't need is new products, but they do need a new evaluation framework. So I think advisors today should be upgrading how they evaluate target dates. And innovation isn't coming, it's already here. So when we think about target dates in the lens of blended structures, income integration, private markets, does it have a personalization option? These change what's inside the target date wrapper as we know it. So if your due diligence still centers on fees and equity at retirement, I'd argue there's room for improvement because it's the advisors that build capabilities around glide path stress testing, income modeling, documentation discipline. They're going to be the ones that lead for the years to come.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like at this point, the products are in the marketplace, and that means advisors at the very least need to be aware of them and educate themselves on them because their clients are going to be hearing about it. They're going to get questions. But also, I feel like I talk to advisors all the time that tell me, hey, how can I differentiate myself out there in the marketplace? And to me, you have so much of target date fund assets sitting in passive, managed, single glide path options, which are a good fit for probably, some of those plans or maybe even a lot of those plans. But at the same time, this is a really easy way for an advisor to stand out from the crowd by talking about something new, different, novel, that I think can get a lot of attention that they're looking for.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right. So we mentioned 4 different trends: personalization, lifetime income, blended strategies, as well as private markets. Which one of those 4 trends or innovations are you most excited to talk about on our webinar on March 5th?
I'm most excited to talk about private markets, not because they're new, but because they raise the bar for fiduciaries and just the potential on what they can offer participants. So for decades, DC participants have largely been excluded from certain parts of the capital markets, but new structural innovations are changing that. But access alone doesn't create value. There's a lot of disparity amongst the private asset managers in terms of their ability to deliver value. So due diligence has to be deeper. Governance has to evolve in that area. And so I think it's one of the most intellectually stimulating and demanding innovations on the table right now. And I think that's why it matters.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the one that gets the most buzz and one that I'm probably having the most conversations about recently. And I think gets to the heart at, what are we trying to do at the end of the day? We're trying to maximize return per unit of risk. And, having private markets in a target date fund probably does that most directly than any of these other trends that we're talking about. That said, I think personally, I'm most excited about the personalization trend. That just has a place close to my heart coming over from my career. Spent the good part of the last 10 years focusing on the value proposition of adding personalization and customization to target date funds. So it's exciting to see how that trend has made an impact on the industry and how I think it'll continue to make an impact on the industry.
Well, I can tell you, as a 50-year-old, my life is a whole lot more complex than it was when I started investing 24 years ago. Personalization is definitely a trend here to stay and making a tremendous impact.
And I think too, it's the one that I find of the 4 that I think is the most intuitive for plan sponsors to grasp onto, just because who doesn't want something more personalized to them, right? Think about any consumer experience you have, the more personalized it is, probably the better, right? So I think it just is very easy for advisors to have that conversation around the potential benefits there. All right, Brandon, what should advisors expect to take away from this session that they couldn't learn from another target date fund resource?
Yeah, you can find a target date trend report anywhere these days, but I think what you won't find everywhere is a practical discussion on how to evaluate those trends and defend your decisions. So this session is all about upgrading your framework, not just updating your knowledge. I think that's the real takeaway.
Yeah, I think that's a really good perspective. We're not coming at this from like a product perspective. We're not coming at it from like purely educating you about what these things are, but it is about how can you as an advisor take practical takeaways on your processes to incorporate that into how you evaluate target date funds and how you can have real conversations with clients and prospects. So you may, and you probably already are, very knowledgeable about all these 4 trends. So we're hoping to come at this from a slightly different angle than just educating you purely on what these things are.
Well said.